Who were the Holocaust survivors, and why did they plan to kill 6 million Germans? Nakam, which is Hebrew for vengeance. Abba Kovner, a poet and resistance fighter, leads a gang of teenage Holocaust survivors known as the Avengers, also known as Nakam, on a quest to extract revenge on Germany for its role in the Holocaust. These 50 young men and women sought retaliation at a level commensurate with the destruction caused by the Holocaust, making it clear to the world that Jewish blood would no longer be shed with impunity. The Avengers had a plan A plan to kill the Germans. What went wrong? They were motivated by the atrocities they had endured, as well as the realization that murderous anti-Semitic attacks on survivors continued long after the Nazi surrender. They intended to kill 6 million Germans had they been successful, but their schemes were ultimately foiled. The majority of Nakam's members eventually left for Israel, where many of them spent years refusing to discuss their involvement in the organization in public. What type of punishment is appropriate for Germany's Holocaust murder of 6 million Jews? This is the true story of a vigilante group of Holocaust survivors who conspired to kill 6 million Germans. In today's video, we are going to look at how and why the Avengers planned to kill 6 million Germans. Let's dive right in. Nakam was a large fraction of 200 to 250 Holocaust survivors who attempted to take violent retribution. These operations, including the assassinations carried out by Mossad, resulted in the deaths of 1,000 to 1,500 persons. Abba Kovner decided to get retribution in 1945 after seeing the scene of the Ponary massacre, the Majdanek extermination camp, and speaking with Auschwitz survivors in Romania. He enlisted roughly 50 Holocaust survivors, most of whom were former Jewish partisans, but some had fled to the Soviet Union. Most were in their early 20s and were from Vilnius, Rovno, Czestochowa, or Krakow. They were chosen for their ability to live covertly and not break down. The organization, commonly known as Nakam, revenge, also went by the Hebrew name Din, which is an acronym for Dam Yisrael Noter, the blood of Israel avenges. The formation. How was the group formed? Members of the group held the opinion that Jews were still at risk of experiencing another Holocaust-like genocide, despite the Nazi Germany's defeat. Kovner thought that the only way to teach Jewish adversaries that they could not act with impunity was to exact proportionate retribution by murdering 6 million Germans. The Germans should be aware that normality cannot return after Auschwitz. Survivors said that Kovner's hypnotic oratory gave expression to the feelings that they were experiencing. Members of the organization held that the world's total moral collapse could only be reversed by catastrophic retaliatory violence, because the laws of the time were incapable of suitably punishing such an extreme event as the Holocaust. The resentful survivors had to go through Nakam before they were ready to return to a life of society and laws. What was the plan? The leaders of the gang devised two plans. Plan A, which involved the murder of many Germans, and Plan B, which involved the poisoning of thousands of SS detainees housed in American POW facilities. After arriving in Italy with his group from Romania, Kovner was welcomed with open arms by Jewish brigade members who asked him to assist in planning Aliyah Bet, illegal immigration to Mandate Palestine. Kovner declined because he was already planning his retaliation. As soon as Nakam established his network of covert cells, he began to gather funds, compromise German infrastructure, and acquire poison. The gang secured a lot of German-faked British currency from a Hashomer Hatzier emissary, coerced investors into giving, and also managed to secure some funding from Jewish Brigade allies. Make sure to subscribe to History Flicks and dig up that bell icon so you won't miss any of our historical updates. Plan A. What was Plan A? Nakam targeted Nuremberg as a Nazi party stronghold. Thus, Joseph Harmatz attempted to hack into the city's municipal water system while acting as a Polish displaced person named Mime Mendele. Due to the housing crisis brought on by the Allied bombing that destroyed the majority of the city, Harmatz had trouble locating lodgings for the conspirators to rent. He was able to bribe Wilhelm Schwarzreich, a German-speaking engineer from Krakow, into a positioning with the Municipal Water Corporation. Schwarzreich planned where the poison should be introduced to kill the most Germans possible by obtaining the water system plan and control of the main water valve. In Paris, Vitna Kempner, Kovner's future wife, and a former comrade of the Vilna ghetto underground, was a member of the Nakam cell led by Pasha Reichmann. David Ben-Gurion reportedly spoke with Reichmann while the latter was visiting a DP camp in Germany, but Ben-Gurion opted to strive toward Israel independence rather than exact revenge for the Holocaust. It was Kovner's responsibility to get the poison from the Yishuv, or Jewish Authority in Mandatory Palestine. While posing as a Jewish Brigade soldier on leave, Kovner left the Jewish Brigade for Milan in July 1945. The following month, he boarded a ship for Palestine. While he was away, Reichmann rose to prominence in Europe. When Kovner arrived in Palestine, the Mossad Liali Bet detained him there for 3 days, while Shaul Miriv, the head of the organization, personally questioned him. Kovner tried to persuade Haganah leaders, Moshe Sneh and Israeli Galilee, to provide him poison for a more modest retaliation operation in exchange for not attributing the murder to the Yishuv. Plan A fails. Kovner alerted Nakam in Europe in September that he had failed to locate poison and that they should instead focus on Plan B by enlisting chemist and former Vilna ghetto guerrilla Yitzhak Ratner. A student of Ephraim and Aaron Katzer, who was a member of the Haganah, eventually introduced Kovner to the chemists at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The Katzer brothers, who supported Kovner's plan of retaliation, persuaded the Hebrew University's director of chemical storage to prepare and deliver the poison to Kovner. According to Kovner's account, Chaim Weizmann approved when he pitched Plan B and put him in touch with the scientist, Ernst Bergman, who gave the job of preparing poison to Ephraim Katzer, later president of Israel, and his brother, Aaron. Kovner's arrest. Kovner left for Alexandria, Egypt in December 1945 with fake documents claiming to be a Jewish Brigade soldier returning from leave and a duffel bag containing gold concealed inside toothpaste tubes and poison cans. Kovner's name was announced over the public address system shortly after boarding a ship bound for Toulon, France, along with the names of the other 3 passengers. Kovner dumped half the poison overboard before instructing a buddy, Yitzhak Rosenkranz, to deliver the bag to Kempner in Paris. He then turned himself in, at which point British police detained him. Later, Kovner was accused of being betrayed by the Haganah of Nakam members. Kovner was not interrogated on Nakam. After spending 2 months in jails in Egypt and Palestine, he was freed. Kovner did not speak English and had not participated in the Jewish Brigade training. At that point, he was no longer involved with Nakam. Plan B, the mass poisoning of SS prisoners. The Nuremberg cell decided to move to poison SS detainees permanently during the first months of 1946, since Kovner had not been able to obtain the necessary amount of poison. With promises from the commanders that they would be reactivated in the future to carry out Plan A, the majority of the Nakam action groups disbanded as instructed, and their members dispersed into displaced person camps. Due to the enormous American prisoner of war camps nearby, the cells in Nuremberg and Dachau continued to operate. The group enlisted Yitzhak Ratner to help them buy poison locally, to find a tasteless, odorless poison that would have delayed effects. He established a laboratory in the Nakam headquarters in Paris in October 1945. There, he experimented with many compositions. In the end, Ratner created a lethal mixture of glue, arsenic, and other ingredients that could be painted onto loaves of bread. Tests on cats confirmed the concoction's toxicity. Friends who worked in the tanning business gave him more than 18 kilos, 40 pounds, of arsenic, which he smuggled into Germany. Nakam concentrated on the Langwasser internment camp outside Nuremberg, formerly Stalag 13D, where 12,000 to 15,000 detainees were held by the United States, primarily prominent or former SS officers. The camp first engaged 2 Nakam members, one as a driver and the other as a worker in the warehouse. A single bakery in Nuremberg, the Konsumgenossenschaftsbäckerei, provided the bread for Langwasser, Consumer Cooperative Bakery. Leibke Distel pretended to be a Polish refugee seeking a visa to work at his uncle's bakery in Canada, while being a survivor of 3 Nazi concentration camps. After bribing the manager with cigarettes, booze, and chocolate, he was able to gain entry to the bakery storeroom after asking if he might work for free. Each night, the Nakam agents gathered in a rented space in Fürth to discuss their findings, particularly how to focus their attack on the German detainees while protecting the American guards. When Harmatz assigned some of the laborers to administrative jobs in the camp, they learned that on Sundays, the black bread would only be consumed by the German inmates because the American guards were given white bread on a special diet. They consequently decided to attack a Saturday night. The attack. How did they plan to poison them? Simcha Rotem, a veteran of the Warsaw Ghetto Revolt, spearheaded efforts to make similar preparations for a prison camp close to Dachau and the bakery that supplied it. Rotem got the manager intoxicated, copied his keys, and returned them before he sobered up after becoming friends with Poles who worked in the bakery. Reichman learned of the police's desire for 2 of the agents a few days before the attack from a Jewish intelligence officer in the US Army. The Dachau Nakam agents aborted on April 11, 1946, as instructed. Reichman feared that if one attack was unsuccessful, the United States would tighten security at prison camps and stop a second attack. How was the plan carried out? 6 Nakam members were currently employed at Nuremberg's Consumer Cooperative Bakery. They snuck the arsenic in over several days. Dodging strict security meant to stop food theft by concealing it under raincoats and storing it under the floorboards. The operatives chose to paint the arsenic mixture onto the bottom of each loaf because tests had revealed that it didn't spread uniformly. The bakery employees went on strike on Saturday, April 13th, which caused delays for the Nakam agents and prevented 3 of them from entering the bakery. Because of this, Distel and 2 of his accomplices were only able to poison 3,000 loaves of bread, as opposed to the 14,000 they had originally intended. After painting the loaves, they escaped to Czechoslovakia with the aid of Yehuda Maiman, an Auschwitz survivor, and then traveled through Italy to southern France. On April 23, 1946, it was reported that 2,283 German prisoners of war had become poisoned, with 207 being hospitalized and critically ill. However, there are no known deaths as a result of the procedure. Records that were obtained stated that the amount of arsenic discovered in the bakery was sufficient to kill about 60,000 people. After brief detention by British officials, about 30 former Nakam agents boarded the ship Berea on June 23rd and arrived before the end of July. Leading Haganah and Israeli Labor Party figures gave them a warm welcome at Kovner's kibbutz, Ein HaHorish, and extended an invitation for them to tour the nation. Balak Ben Yaakov led a small group of agents back to Europe to carry out the objective. Kovner and the remainder of the organization believed that the opportunity for retribution had gone. 9 other Nakam agents split out in the spring of 1947, and with the aid of Labor Party official Abba Kovner, they went back to Europe the following year. The logistical and financial difficulties that the splinter organizations faced further grew once the Federal Republic of Germany was established in 1949, further complicating their illegal activities. Many of the members began engaging in criminal activity to sustain themselves, and with the aid of previous members from the French resistance, they attempted to escape from German prisons. The majority visited Israel again between 1950 and 1952. Conclusion: Kovner's participation in Nakam was political suicide. The group's members displayed no regret, claimed that the Germans deserved it, and sought praise for their deeds rather than forgiveness. 4 group members were reportedly still alive as of November 2019. The failure of the attack may have been deliberate, as Kovner and other leaders began to realize that it could have greatly harmed the Jewish people. Even though the Avengers' history came to light in the 1980s, little is known about the group's interactions with Zionist leadership and the reasons behind its members' motives. If you like this, subscribe to History Flicks and explore more history and mystery with us. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to let us know what you would like to see and what you think about this video in the comments section. Check out our other videos on History Flicks. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.